My name's Mike Parker. I am the chairman and chief exec of a company called Smart Medical Clinics. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my presentation, and if I can work this machine, this is me, Mike Parker. So, what can I tell you? That's my favourite word. I learned that expression a few years ago. Biscuits to elephants. What does it mean? What's it all about? Well, I'm going to let you into a little secret. A few years ago, I was lucky enough to be a chairman on a committee of people based in Ireland, and we were looking into providing the Irish government with a electronic service which cut down on prescription cost, wastes on drugs that were being prescribed unnecessarily. And on that committee was a brain surgeon, as you always find, you need somebody clever. There was a senior cancer surgeon who specialised in upper GI. There was a firm of accountants, we've got to have accountants, and there was a firm of lawyers. I was brought on board to try and inspire these people to deliver the product that we were trying to create. One of the things that I recognised very early on was that we needed an IT expert. We didn't have one in the forum. So what happened was I suggested to the rest of the guys that we basically needed to look and find ourselves a very experienced IT executive. A few days later, I was in my office. I got a knock on the door, and it was my brain surgeon who walked in with a big smile on his face and said, "Mike, I got your IT director." He was actually the boss of Google, or one of them. I'm not going to mention his name because I think that would be a bit naughty. But this particular gentleman impressed me. As an entrepreneur, I like to find out what everybody else is doing, especially Google, because they're very good at making money, and they're very good at not paying tax. So there's two reasons why I need to pay attention. I went along to meet this guy after we had our initial introduction, and he invited me to his offices in Dublin. So off I go to Dublin. And I'm very excited. This is a breakfast meeting. Breakfast meeting to me means about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. This one started for me at 5 o'clock. I get to Google's head office in Dublin at 5 o'clock and was shown in to an office which I was, if you like, spying on. I wanted to know exactly what was going on, what their secrets were. We all want to know what Google's secret is. So in I go. As I go in, I noticed that these are great big office spaces, open plan, with the most amazing, what I will describe as hospitality units in the middle of the room. You can say, Mike, well, so what? Lots of people have coffee and tea facilities. Not like this, they don't. The ones in Google 5 years ago, when I went along, were incredible. First of all, I've never seen so many recycling bins in my life. Recycling bins everywhere, and every different type of product that you can think of. The next thing I noticed was the variety and stock of what they were being given complimentary. As we went through the building, and there was about 8 floors, I think, at the time, we go from the ground floor up, and we're shown these different floors, different colours, different weird and wonderful recreational spaces in these buildings. We get to the top, and at the top, we're asked if we'd like a coffee before we go into our meeting room. And one of the things I noticed was that in this coffee facility, people were taking sweets, peppermints in particular. It was good old polo mints. They were taking a sweet out of the packet and putting the packet back in the bowl. I'd noticed, wandering around the building, that this wasn't unique to the top floor. It was unique on every floor. I didn't pay a lot of attention to this, but then I had my meeting, very interesting meeting. We then decide that we need to have some breakfast. The meeting is finished, so we go downstairs to breakfast. Breakfast is in the basement. We get to the basement of Google, and I'm thinking, well, this is where the cars belong. No, Google employees don't have cars, they have bikes or legs. They're encouraged to look after their bodies. The canteen in the bottom of Google's building was the most amazing canteen I've ever seen. I've been on cruises, I've been in hotels, fancy hotels, and I've been to weddings, and you've seen some fancy food. The presentation and breakfast that Google were offering their staff was second to none. I was then offered to have my breakfast. And I said, yes, I like my breakfast. So they offered me a shake first, trying to do my bit and trying to not embarrass myself. I said, yeah, I'll have a shake. That's fine, mate. There's a blender, there's a push bike. Ride the bike, that blends the shake. Not good at exercise, don't believe in exercise, really. You might find that strange when we've heard from these wonderful people telling us how we should do this, but more accidents are caused in the gym than they are crossing the road, apparently. I don't know whether that's true. I'm not going to quote figures because everybody else does that. But it always amuses me the number of people that we seem to see have problems by going to the gym. It's not such a healthy place, in my opinion, but I'm only a medic in terms of we repair the problems afterwards. But anyway, going back to my drink, because this was Google and because money was no object, I decided to have a guava juice. I helped myself to my guavas, put them in the blender, and there's a chart, there's a printout on the wall, because it's Google, telling me how many calories is in my drink before I've even made it. But if I ride the bike for 2 minutes, I use X amount of calories. If I ride the bike for 5 minutes, it's free. I don't have any calories from the juice. I'm kind of thinking, well, what's the point of taking it? But that's not for me to work out. I'm not employed by Google. I'm just an ordinary, humble entrepreneur. So, what was all this about? What did this teach me? Because I'm looking and I'm talking to the boss about other things, and we're having a chat, and I said, this must cost a fortune. I haven't got a problem with looking after staff. I think that's very important. But who pays for all this? The boss looked at me and said, Mike, biscuits for elephants. Favourite expression now. What does that mean? What is biscuits to elephants? What do they get out of it? Well, the answer to that is if you look after your staff and you look after them properly, they don't abuse what they're given. They actually respect it and they trust you. That goes an awful long way. The reason I mention that is because there's one group of people, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here today, that really, really impress me, and that's you guys, HR people. Why? Because you're supposed to be miracle workers. As a director of a company, I look and I take on staff. Staff are the most important part of any business. You all know that. You don't need me to tell you that. It doesn't matter whether you're manufacturing. It doesn't matter whether you're in the service industry. And most of us here today are in the service industry. We don't have a business if we don't have good people. People are what our business is all about. We can have the best product in the world, but without people looking after it, maintaining it, and servicing it, we don't have a business. So staff are the name of the game. HR people, you're supposed to go out there, you're supposed to recruit them, you're supposed to then incentivize them, you're supposed to keep them, and you're supposed to do all of that with no money half the time, or cut budgets, or I want it yesterday, or whatever. You're miracle workers. And then you come to conferences like this one and presentations, and we all say, but you're not doing this, and you're not doing that, and how do you do that, and how do you do this? And you're supposed to have a magic answer from someone and says, yes, I can fix that. I know that. I'm a brain surgeon. I can fix that. I'm a doctor. You're not. You're ordinary people. Very good ordinary people doing a fantastic job. You need help. You need help from us, the professionals that can give you answers how to give biscuits to elephants. It doesn't cost a lot, although your bosses will all tell you, actually it does. It costs a fortune, and we can't afford it. And you're supposed to do all of the things that you've heard today. And you've heard some very interesting comments today. And you'll hear some more this afternoon, hopefully. How are you supposed to deliver all of these services? How's the NHS supposed to do it? They've got more money than all of us put together. Well, they're not, as you've just heard. The NHS are struggling. I had a meeting about a month ago with some members of Parliament. Now, it's not being big-headed. It's the first time I've actually done that. A couple of them are health specialists. What I learned at that meeting for the first time in a good number of years is that the NHS is actually waking up to the fact that it's unsustainable. It doesn't have the money to deliver what we all need and require. So how are you supposed to do it in the private world? If the NHS can't afford it, how are you supposed to do it? Well, my talk and my workshops this afternoon are all about how we can work together. It's a team game. It's not about individuals. It's not about individual organisations. It's about people working together for the benefit of everybody else. Now, most people in HR already know that, so I'm preaching to the converted. It's very difficult. It's very tough in today's environment to find the requirements that you need at a price you need. And everybody's different. There aren't two people the same anywhere. So my job as the chief exec and chairman of a company called Smart Medical is to help you deliver that and work with you to tailor-make a package that meets the requirements of all of your people. People that are the most important part of any business. Sex. That's just putting there to wake up some of the guys at the back that were wandering off. Now I've got your attention again. Male and female. Male and females are different pieces. Different people. They have different requirements. So in the modern world today, what we see in the workplace, and certainly in London, is all sorts of what I call not so serious medicine. So we get sports injuries. They're all very fit. They're all trying to do the good things in life. And we see an awful lot of sports injuries, hence the gyms, and hence why I say they're dangerous. But we also see a lot of substance abuse. Substance abuse of various types, when we're talking not just alcohol, we're talking about other things, is a big problem for the workplace. It's a very sensitive area. You can't go into work and say, oh, how much cocaine did you do on Saturday or Friday or whatever? It's politically incorrect. I can say it up here, but you can't say it in the real terms because people don't like it and they get offended. But it's a problem, and it's a problem that real people have, and it's a problem that you need to be able to help them with, sensitively. The same thing applies to depression, and I'm going to use that word because I'm conscious of all the people that have gone before me this morning that I've told you about depression. It's a real problem. I'm not going to quote the figures that the ladies have put up this morning because I know that they were genuine, and I know the gentleman from mine did likewise. It is a real, real big problem that people do not like talking about. How do we overcome that? How are you, as HR directors and managers responsible, how are you supposed to cope with that? How are you supposed to broach delicate information and difficult conversations? The answers to these questions and many more are you need to come to my workshop later on and we'll discuss it in detail. But in general, our staff need to be looked after. And they need to be looked after in various different ways. How do we do that? And what do we benefit out of it? Well, if you look after your staff, as you all know, they will stay loyal. They will stay with you. I normally recite a story about one of the businesses I first got involved with, which was a transport business. And in the early days, I learned very quickly in the old-fashioned ways, and I'm a lot older than most people in this room, but I know I'm wearing well. We looked and worked in an industry which was heavily dominated by males. The world is moving forward, and people are changing slowly. And that's because of education, and it's because of people actually being braver and being more confident, so they can talk about the issues such as depression, such as substance abuse, such as what they actually need and what makes them healthy and happy to come to work and why they want to come to work. Your trick is to make sure that they work for your employer and not the competitors, and keep them. Money normally gets them through the door, but retention is where you guys come in. And to keep people in a company in the modern world is very interesting. It's very demanding. It's also very rewarding. If you get it right, you get loyalty. Loyalty, working together, and as a team, we get there. Lifestyle. Lifestyle today is very different. It's a new word to people like me. What does it mean from an employment point of view? Well, it's all about how people actually live and work. You can't do one without the other. If you've got no money, you don't get much of a lifestyle. You need money, but you need a life. And we need to marry the two together. And it's not a quick night stand, gentlemen. It is a long-term relationship. It has to work. Virtual medicine. One of the things that I will be talking about in the workshop later on today is that the world of medicine in general is changing. It's about depression treatment. It's about all the things you've heard today and many more. What's also coming is something called virtual medicine. It's about to slap us on our faces. What does it mean? Well, virtual medicine, from a doctor's perspective, is something that they're getting concerned about, and I'll tell you why. The GMC are very, very concerned about virtual medicine. So are the MDU and so are the MPS. For those of you who don't know, that's the professional insurances for doctors. Doctors, by their very nature, are very decent, honourable people who care. They don't like NHS medicine anymore, generally because they're not allowed to practice it properly. They're not given the time that people need. So people like me in private medicine do very well because of that. But generally, they are very, very loyal and sensitive people that care about their patients. And they feel that they're not being given the time and the effort and the respect that they deserve. And that's because the NHS is struggling. It's true. So the government have said, well, let's look at modern medicine and come up with a modern, fantastic, new concept, virtual medicine. Virtual medicine is, some of us think, an accident waiting to happen. Some of us think it's very exciting. If virtual medicine is delivered properly, it's going to help. It's not the long-term solution, but it's going to help solve the problem. What do I mean by virtual medicine? What is a virtual GP? Youngsters amongst you, of which I'm not one of them anymore, but will understand that you all use your mobile devices far more than you ever used to. You grew up with them. I didn't know what a mobile device was until I was quite a senior adult. Technology is here to stay, and you guys don't have a problem, and your staff don't have a problem with going on the internet and going onto some sort of technology to find answers. You're very good at it. But patients and information given by such technology has to be done responsibly. Doctors are responsible people. So if you contact a virtual medicine provider, i.e. a virtual doctor, who's never seen you before, doesn't understand your medical background, and then prescribes medicines to you or gives you treatment, it's not necessarily ethical. I'm not saying it's wrong, and it has a place, but it has a limited place, and it has to be delivered responsibly. It's another big problem. Who do you go to? There's many virtual medicine suppliers out there at the moment. They're all competing. There aren't very many that are supported by the GMC, and there aren't very many that the insurance companies aren't concerned about. We have the answers, hopefully, about how to overcome some of those problems and to set standards. At the moment, there are no standards in virtual medicine. And whilst young people are quite happy telling the machine that they've been out and got some sort of sexually transmitted disease, and can they have a dose of penicillin, it has a place. But if it's something more complicated or serious, then there's nothing better than speaking to a real human person, lady or female, and discussing your problem and letting them understand it properly. And it's balancing the two. So virtual medicine does have a part to play in the future. These are all things that are changing daily, right now, and happening in the real world. You guys are supposed to know all about it. You're supposed to be so much of an expert that you can then sign up your companies to all of this. It's a nightmare. It's a minefield. Remember that you've listened to people today that have brought various bits of information to you. It's not about one piece of information. It's about providing healthcare responsibly to your most valuable asset, your staff, your workforce. And you need to consider all of the things you've heard today and a load more. The future is all about working together with people, caring in a compassionate and prosperous way, that we can all work together and we can respect each other and understand that everybody is different.